Thank you all so much for joining us for the Work-Life Balance Workshop. Joining us today is Deanna Waddle, Interim Director of Web and Digital Strategy for University Marketing and Communications. She's going to be discussing the importance of maintaining a healthy work-life balance and providing tips on how to do so. So I'm going to hand it over to her and let her get us started. Thank you.
I am going to be sharing with you. So I'm going to play a little music to get us started. And I guess because everybody's muted, I can't have people chime in, but I'll be curious to see if anybody recognizes this song or if I'm just too older than you guys, but thought I'd get started with a little bit of music, and it's applicable as we move forward. So let me start that. It's old. Valerie's smiling. I don't know. And I'll end it there. So if anybody knows it, I'd be curious, but a little known fact is the singer who actually sings that song, and it's from a very famous movie, is actually a Vegas resident, plays in the Brooklyn Bridge Band. I think he would play at the Tuscany. Oh, Ryan knew it. All right, Ryan, I hope you're gonna enjoy this then. I will tell you actually, it's old school, it's Karate Kid, and it's by Joe Esposito. And so I thought I'd get some energy. I know it's Friday afternoon, and it's been even though we've had a day off, I know it's been a long week. So wanted to kick that off a little bit. So just a little bit about me. Who am I and why me? Why am I doing a work-life balance workshop? My name is Dina Waddell. I am Interim Senior Director of Web and Digital Strategy. I've been at the university for 15 years doing web content. And in February, when my boss left, I was promoted. And so, which was a great opportunity. As being in charge of the web unit at UNLV, we are responsible for the main university website, as well as about 200 plus additional websites, mostly colleges, departments, and other units. So it's a pretty big responsibility. And to set the stage also for my job, we've also, when my boss left, he was the third person to leave. So we were really understaffed, and I'm saying that for a reason. So I got the position in February, and then in March, as we all know, COVID hit. So learning the ropes, understaffed, and then all of a sudden we have a pandemic. And we were trying to transition as much as possible to online. I got an annotation request. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry. But information was changing, and information was changing quickly, and we had to make sure that we had to get everything up to date on the website. So it was a big responsibility at work. And then within a few weeks, we were quarantined and we went remote. So that is my work life. I've always been able to keep that balance. I've always been able to leave at a very specific time from work, go home, and then start my other life, which is being a mom and a wife. So this is my home life. This is a photo of me and my two kids. I have a 7-year-old named Hudson, who's in 2nd grade, and a 10-year-old Samira, who is in 5th grade. And they transitioned to remote learning in March and are still home doing remote learning. So that's been added to the bucket. I'm also married, and my husband actually has kidney failure, which also means that he started dialysis a week before. So why am I saying all of this? This is who I am. And UNLV today, the new center at UNLV actually decided to do a story on me because they highlight employees, and they talked about it. And something that came up a lot is balance, and you could see it in the caption that they wrote. So this is my typical work life right now. I don't always keep my work issued laptop on my above ground pool, but they did it for photo purposes because the photographer noticed in all of the meetings we've been on virtually that I do work from outside, and that's where I'm speaking to you from right now. So that is my home life. And so the graduate college saw this and asked me, because I asked them why. I'm not an expert. I don't work in HR, I work in web. I don't read a ton of self-help books, but they knew enough about me to know that I had a lot on my plate and that I do try to balance. So you got me. The one thing that I have done over the summer to kind of keep some normalcy for the kids was to watch old school movies, and that included The Karate Kid. And so there's a lot of reasons why I played that music, and I'm talking about that. So I mentioned that in my story, and a lot of people said you got to watch Cobra Kai. So our whole family's been immersed in all of this Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, and I hope a lot of you have watched it. If not, you should. But as I was watching it, it became evident to me that something that I talk about all the time, which was balance, was actually the main theme throughout Karate Kid and now in Cobra Kai. So I'm going to play a little clip and get you introduced to the Karate Kid.
I'm just scared, the tournament and everything.
You remember lesson about the balance?
Yeah.
A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life. Whole life have a balance. Everything is better. Understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Wait, not matter.
I'm just scared, the tournament and everything.
You remember lesson about
Oh, sorry, guys. So that was Mr. Miyagi and Daniel, who is known as the Karate Kid. And so I figured, well, I'm not an HR expert, but I do have a lot of experience with how to balance work life. I thought I'd get a little help from somebody who's kind of been part of our life now throughout the pandemic, at least my family. So lesson just not just karate only, it's for whole life. Whole life have balance, everything be better. And that's Mr. Miyagi. So I thought I'd kind of walk you through the presentation in the words of Mr. Miyagi, because he seems a little bit older and wiser and knows a lot about balance. So the first thing is you trust the quality of what you know, not the quality. This quote resonated with me because of all of the shift in work. Like I said, I had a good balance before, but we shifted remotely and a lot of things changed. So all of our work habits or school habits, everybody's habits have changed. And the way we communicate changes due to the pandemic. How has it changed? We are all in virtual work environments. I'm giving this presentation virtually. I can't even see faces right now because I have my presentation on, so it's hard to gauge. So there's a lot of different things that change. There aren't any visual cues anymore of meetings ending, of people folding up their books, or now we wave on Zoom. I think everybody can admit our vocabulary is double, tripled between WebEx and Google Meet. There's Slack chat, GoToMeetings, Microsoft Teams. If I had $1 for every time somebody said you're on mute, I think we'd all be rich, because there's been, I think the work environments has changed a lot and has kind of upset the balance, at least for me, in some positive ways and some not. But it's also, we also have shared spaces. We may live with other people, or we may not have had proper space. I didn't have proper space. I'm sitting outside. And because we are virtual, there's also a lot more of bells and whistles that are going. I'm on a video chat, but there's pings on the phone. There's lots of chats going on. People are trying to connect more. And so there's a lot more distractions than I feel like I've ever experienced, and I'm sure you all could feel that as well. And there's also pre-existing biases about remote working and learning. And that was something that I've experienced. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I did want to share an image. This is kind of my everyday life now of a virtual meeting. The audio wasn't working for one person, so they put on captions and started laughing, and we couldn't figure out why, and the captioning was all over the place. But I think this has become such a familiar sight to everybody. The pre-existing biases, as I said, I had that balance, but I also was in a different position. When the remote school and learning and work started, I was working a lot. I was working round the clock for a few reasons. I wanted to prove myself. I was in a new role, but I also wanted to, and COVID hit, so there was just a lot of that. But I also knew that people didn't think that you could work successfully at home, that you're, cooking or hanging out or chilling out. And so that fear and that needing to prove myself made me work nonstop. I was afraid to go to the bathroom. I was afraid to take lunch breaks. And it was a lot of anxiety. It was very, very much out of balance. And my children noticed, they told me that I was working too much. But there was a lot of that. So to go back to the quote, it's the quality, but the quantity. What I've realized is I had to stop. When my children said you're working a lot, it made me step back and think. And the fact is, it is the quality. You need to have quality of your work. You need to know that you're doing a good job. It's not the amount of time you put into something. So you could be working all day just to visually show that you're doing something, but you may not always be doing that. And I feel like once you make that mental change of the quality of your life and the quality of what you're doing versus the quantity, that helps a lot. So another Mr. Miyagi quote, "If the root is strong, the tree will survive." So as Mr. Miyagi says, you have to have strong roots. And with that, you could really weather anything, like the bonsai tree. It's easier to establish boundaries, and it is so, so important to do that. So along with setting boundaries was to know who you are, what you need, and how to communicate it. As I said, I struggled with that, working constantly and being fearful of getting caught taking a 5-minute break. But then I stepped back, I realized that I was doing my work. It is the quality of work, and it is that setting boundaries, because if you don't set those boundaries, it's very hard to undo. Unfortunately, I was in a retreat and kind of voiced that fear. And a lot of people kind of talked, and colleagues and bosses talked about it. And it kind of reiterated the, I know who I am, I know what I need to do, and I am doing a good job. And I think if everybody knows and sets those boundaries, if the root of the tree is strong, then you could communicate that. And communicate that, then it's successful. You set the tone. Don't make anybody else set those boundaries for you, because people will get whatever they need from you, whether it be school, work, family. You need to set those boundaries. Whether you're in a new job, a new relationship, a new situation. And I found myself, even though I've been working at UNLV for 15 years, I found myself all of a sudden out of balance because I was afraid to set those boundaries because I feared of proving myself. But when you take a step back and you realize that, you're okay. Redefine your limits. I think the one word of COVID that we were using at the beginning is resilient, fluid. Everything is changing. And I think you could, as long as you know who you are, you do have that firm, you do have the firm roots, but you do need to bend because situations change. I think if anything that we've learned out of the pandemic is that things change, whether we like to or not. And we could either kind of stay strong and not bend at all, but trust in the root and bend according. But you have to be resilient, and you have to look at each situation as it changes. Things always change, and you need to redefine your limits. You also need to accept that it's impossible to get everything done. There's always going to be one more thing that you could do. But your work or your school needs to have an endpoint. And that is hard because emails never stop coming in. You have to do your best every day and not feel guilty about clocking off. And that is another mind shift too that is harder to do in the pandemic when you have an open laptop all the time. It is really difficult to detach yourself mentally, but if you gradually redefine those limits and again set those boundaries and communicate your needs, and get that mental break, it's one step closer to having a balance. And the other thing is also to prioritize. Don't leave to tomorrow if it could be done today, but you also have to be realistic about what can be done today. If you can do it quickly and it's low hanging fruit and you could check it off, great. But if you're going to start something, make sure that you could finish it in an ample amount of time before the night ends, or your evening starts and you need to kind of unplug. You need to prioritize your work efficiently. Start winding down. Make list. If you really energized about what you need to do, start that list for tomorrow. And the most important thing also is to cherish your life outside of work and school. If you have nothing else and you throw everything into work or school, you're going to get burnt out. I'm not saying anything that probably anybody doesn't know. Like I said, I'm just kind of telling you from my experience, but it really, really is true. If you just focus on some of that. So when my kids said I was working a lot, I took a step back. We started watching we watched all 3 Karate Kids. We watched Goonies, but trying to set some new normals and really try to take a step back and cherish that, because it helps you with the balance. And it also makes you healthier. So when you feel life is out of focus, always return to basic of life. Breathing, no breath, no life. In Mr. Miyagi's famous words when he taught Daniel the wax on and wax off, and if you haven't seen The Karate Kid, I highly encourage it now and then follow up with Cobra Kai. But Mr. Miyagi was very wise, although you don't know if he just kind of spoke with conviction or if he knew this. And so, again, I'm speaking from what I experienced. Everybody's experiences are different. So it's not a black and white, cut and dry solution to what's going on. But I thought a few of these quotes that Mr. Miyagi speaks we can interpret in our own way, and we could have it put toward our life and how to achieve balance, because everybody needs balance in different ways as well. So again, just recommendations. How do you disconnect from work and school life after you've clocked out in this new environment? Like I said, in my previous life, I had no problems leaving the office. I never stepped on a laptop at home. I was done. If people needed to reach me, they would call me, but I really had that clear boundary. But again, now that we're home, it's hard. Some suggestions are to create designated workspaces if possible. Sometimes it's not necessarily possible. I moved outside. I'm getting doors built for a room because we have wide open spaces. A huge thing is to ditch the tech. Well, that's really hard, right? Because we use tech in our everyday lives, whether it's for work or personal. But emails constantly or pings from messages, those are all distractions, and it really is hard to kind of work steady, get that quality of work that you need. So I've had some employees that have had trouble with that, because when they're working through one thing, one other thing comes up. And so I can't say I'm always successful, but a good idea of how to balance that is to look at your emails first thing in the morning. Set a bulk of time where you look at your emails, but then actually log off. If I need to focus, I tell my team, I'm here. Let me know if it's important, but I shut off my direct messages, because everything that people direct message you needs to be attended to, at least for work. So it's really hard. I do set do not disturb on my cell phone. Again, nothing new. I'm just kind of reiterating some tactics that I use. I also find that I really block off my calendar now. I am in a lot of meetings, but I don't get time to do my actual work. So I set that time off and I try to adhere to it. It's not always easy, but I think kind of telling yourself it's okay to not answer an email or answer a phone call and focus on another piece of work is really, really important. you don't have to respond every time. That's something it's hard to mentally adjust, and it's something slow. But again, the communicating of that to your team, to your boss, really, at least for me, made a difference. And if you can't ditch the tech, at least make it funny. So there are some Zoom meetings that we're in where we do kind of just socialize and kind of giggle a little bit because we have to be on, but we do try to share memes or just to kind of make it a little funny. And then to create a transition ritual. It is hard when you're home, changing out of your work clothes. I don't know about anybody, but I have not really worn proper work clothes except for maybe that photo you saw. I have a jacket on now, but I have blankets keeping me warm. So that may not be so easy right now, but walk the dog or go for a walk. I realized working outside has been a big boost for me. I've been stuck inside lately because it's been so cold out and so cold to me. And being inside, really, it does help. It does help to get out. Meditate. So go back to what Mr. Miyagi said about breathing, and have a snack. And just another scene from the Karate Kid again, just to kind of end it. I know that was pretty quick, but those are just some tips from my experience. I'm going to show another clip to kind of close it out, and then open for discussion and tips.
Good. Stand about. No. Bow. Up.
What, up front?
Yeah. Make block. Left to right. Up to down. Side to side. Breathe in, breathe out. And no scare fish.
You want to learn how to punch?
And so, again, Mr. Miyagi quote, I'm not so eloquent in my speech, so I thought I'd steal his quotes. But again, just to reiterate, better learn balance. Balance is key. Balance good, karate good. Everything good, balance bad. Better pack up and go home. And I'll stop sharing my screen right now. But basically, that's my experience. Again, I'm not an HR expert, but I do know that balance is something I realized as I was doing my interview for that story. It's something that's always on my mind. The breathing advice from Mr. Miyagi, I actually have one of those wine and sip painting, the painting things that you go to with your girlfriends. I painted one that says breathe. It's over in my bathtub. I haven't had time to take, I never look at it. But some of those things are very helpful. I know that was kind of quick, but I just wanted to share that. If you do watch Karate Kid, I see Ryan's on, so hopefully Ryan will ask some questions and has seen the Karate Kid. But if you watch the sequel, it's 30 years later, same characters in Cobra Kai on Netflix. One of the episodes is called Counterbalance, and it's about the main character loses his balance, working all the time. And so when I watched that, it just made me feel better because it made me feel like there are no experts. Everything is what is personal for you. Even in Cobra Kai, there's a scene where Daniel visits Mr. Miyagi's grave. The actor actually used to live in Vegas also, another little tidbit of worthless trivia, Pat Morita. But he asked him, he said, did you really have it all figured out? Or were you just older and you seemed wiser? And so I think everybody's truth is different. What makes everybody want to feel balanced is different. But I think the pandemic has created a lot of challenges. It's also created lots of opportunities. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for indulging me and for listening.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your time. And this was a really important topic for all of us. And we really appreciate you sharing your reality with us, just letting us know what you go through. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next workshop. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.